I'm not gonna waste your time. Why I think compound and especially defenses in there are necessary for most groups. Defending raids mainly from shooting floor has been normal for a long time. However, people have been shifting towards compound defenses more than the actual shooting floor. This is because it's a lot easier to seal the compound, push out and loot your raiders from compound defenses. Then let's imagine that people are pummeling your base. What do they have to go through in order for them to get your loot? That's right, the compound. Now at this point you could argue that how about top-down raids? Well, they're not that common, are they? And on top of that, you probably already have roof defenses that will scare top-downers away. But what you don't have is good compound. Now, there was a time when I didn't build compounds, or I just quickly built something that had high external walls and 1x1 gates. It was a horrible choice. I'll have one of my bases on the screen here, and you can see that the compound on it is just bad. I have now really been focusing more on the compounds, and I think my last base really nailed it. I hope you can learn from my mistakes and make better compounds from the start. Now you see, my path to the point where I am right now took way longer than it needs to be. So I wish that I can really help you get on the fast track to building compounds that you have always wished to be able to build. So this is how I tend to see compounds. 1. Base's own ground defenses. These are usually funnel wall, sea wall and wide gap China wall. However, I need to point out that the funnel wall and sea wall can be used in different areas of the compound. 2. Inner compound, for example, compound outposts, mini China wall and peaks looking at the breaches. 3. Outer compound, for example, high external walls, large furnaces, bedrooms and gates, and breach peaks. And 4. Things that really can be anywhere. These things can be turrets, combined with chain links and or ramps to make them stronger, drop boxes, towers. However, I don't really recommend doing these since they are usually just an extra cost and bad. Loot rooms, and these can be bunkered or just normal loot rooms, usually they are bunkered. Any deployables you want to include, and finally externals. This is because in large group bases externals might be inside the compound, however usually they are outside of the compound. Now, there is some cases where you can mix these up and things don't go as they do on my list. For example, in larger bases there could be second compound and bedrooms in different places. Feel free to get creative and really mix these things up. You can see that even I don't follow these guidelines fully, and these are here for you just to get started and really use your own imaginations. So, what makes a great compound then? A great compound gives raiders hard time to breach in. By using the things I listed before, you could build a very well defended compound. At this point I want to remind you of the fact that these are only my personal views on the topic and can really be different from somebody else's point of view. Now, because blowing up the compound walls is the first thing that raiders do, you need to make sure that you and your turrets have good coverage on those breaches. While having a good coverage to those breaches, you could also consider making either a furnace wall or furnace funnel. Raiders will then normally need to break these to continue breaching. They can do it by blowing them up or meleeing them. So, when your turrets have good coverage on the breach side of the furnaces, they have to blow up the turrets first if they want to break them by hand. After they have broke your walls and furnaces, they should need to face either some kinds of peaks, some wall that we discussed earlier, or your base's own ground defenses. Now at this point you could also consider having some well protected turrets. These could be, for example, ramp turrets. When done right, raiders need to use tons of boom just to break one turret. You can implement these ramp turrets in bedrooms, gates, breach peaks, or compound outposts. They can really be anywhere you want. At this point, raiders have now breached the compound and base's own ground defenses. However, they should still have a lot of peaks and some turrets to worry about. Ideally, raiders would be forced to raid from the side that they have breached, and you would have total control of most of the compound. How is this done, you might ask? Well, there is many ways to do this, but probably my all-time favorite is the compound outpost. Compound outpost is a unit that has bedrooms, peaks, turrets, and possible loot rooms and mobility up to the base. It's normally just a funnel wall that splits your compound in smaller pieces. When done well, they can include hidden bunkered loot that will be easily missed by the raiders. While raiders are stuck on one side of the base, they will also need to face the turrets in Whitecap China, Sea or Funnel Wall. Your base could also have Uncle Biter retakes to these areas. If you manage to kill your raiders, you probably should be sealing the compound while your teammate could be covering the outside from the compound breach peaks. Now, what I just described are my thoughts on the perfect compound. Obviously, nothing is perfect and most of the time your compound will be nothing like this. Compounds heavily vary depending on your base and what size it is. Building the compound. I feel like this part is the most important part because at least I was stuck for a long time at this feeling like I couldn't fill up the space or that there was just too much room. So if you feel like you don't know where to start, what I usually do is I start with the layout. I basically make a footprint for the compound. At this point, I decide what I want to have in the compound, what size should it be and how much can it cost. So decide all these things, then roughly just plan where all of it goes. For example, I would have gates here, bedrooms here and externals like so. This will take some time if you want it to be good. While doing this, you should also think about things like how many beds you need there, what are the defenses gonna be like, and where the turrets go. You should also have hexagonal walls and furnaces planned out. At this point I really like to get creative and just try to really mix things up and build even dumb things. Just see what could work and really play around, for example with different peaks. When making your externals, you need to decide if they're gonna be bunkered or not. To find a reason for this, see if your base has any bunkers on the foundations that the externals are connected to. If they do, then bunker your externals, or at least make them strong. This is so that raiders can't loot your base's bunkers without blowing them up. Other reason could be that you don't have many externals. I would suggest that if you have under 3 externals, bunker them or make them strong. This is so that raiders can't grief your base so easily. Different walls. I want to dive in a little bit deeper with these. So you might already know this, but I'm going to go over them briefly. Mini China wall is a small version of the China wall. Since China wall isn't good anymore, this is a cheaper option if you want one. Simplified, it has respawn points and peaks in the outer compound. With this you usually have 2 layers of compounds. Funnel wall is kinda like mini China wall, but the entrance to it is a funnel. The funnel has traps and if raiders try to go through, they will well die. It can be part of the base or just purely compound defense. However, nowadays nobody runs through them and just end up blowing them up fully or going on top of them with ladders. So I don't really advise to build these since they usually just cost more than China walls. Seawall is only 0.5 walls high and it has traps and turrets. How it basically works is that raiders will either need to jump over it with ladders or blow it up. Jumping over it is bad idea since you will get destroyed by turrets and players shooting at you. Since it's shorter than other walls, raiders shouldn't be able to hug the walls and be safe. Entrance behind it is either a door or, as in most cases, weak foundation that will be destroyed in a raid. And finally, Whitecap China Wall. It's just a mini China wall that is built on your foundations that hold your shooting floor. You might have seen someone build seawall within your usual Whitecap China wall or funnel wall shell. You can and you should mix these walls with other walls and your base. They can provide great defenses together. Other important things. Firstly, even though this isn't necessarily about compound, you need to make sure that you have good visibility to compound from your shooting floor. This means that you will see even the rat hugging your Whitecap China wall. Secondly, it might be a good idea to have some kind of mobility between your compound and roof or shooting floor. You don't have to be able to jump up to the base, but you should be able to get down to the compound without fall damage. The drop down should end up in some place that you can take cover from the raiders instantly. And lastly, have fun with it.